Well, Joker introduced one of our guests earlier, Mr. Ade Adifeko is with us. He's Director, Corporate and Regulatory Affairs for Olam Agri in London. He joins us from London. Thank you for joining us this morning, Mr. Adifeko. Well, let's take you to Davos. You argued that the mission for 2020 is no longer food security alone. It is food sovereignty, owning the financing, processing, distribution, and what have you. I'm wondering, in your opinion, how you think this fits into this conversation on moving Nigeria from being global epicenter of hunger and a dumping ground of food imports to being self-sustaining and becoming an exporting finished products nation.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry for me coming in late. We have a 1 hour difference between the UK and Nigeria, so I think I got it mixed up. So we're 1 hour behind you, rather you're 1 hour ahead of us. So that's where I think I got it mixed up. Anyway, viewers, thank you very much for having me. Channels, thank you very much for having me as well. Like you alluded to, I was at Davos for the World Economic Forum program. On the sidelines at the Africa House, I spoke on the panel with eminent Africans, talking about our problems and looking at solutions as well for us, which is very important. Usually, when we go for conferences like that, the people that speak to us or talk about us or speak to our issues are usually the people from the global north. So for once in a very long time, on a recurring basis by the organizers of this conference or this sit-down that we had in Davos, we Africans were speaking to ourselves on our issues and how we can solve our problems. So I think that was a very good first step on the part of the convener, who is Kojo Annan, who is the son of the former Secretary General of the United Nations, and his wife, Shanati, in the Africa House. So that was one of the sideline events. So impressive and very important. The global south must speak to itself. We shouldn't rely all the time on the global north. So back to what you spoke to. And I've been listening with rapt attention to the other speaker or the earlier speaker speaking to what we need to do. I want to correct an impression. Nigeria is not the global epicenter of hunger. So let's get that clear. We need to be very, very careful with labeling and how we give ourselves very, very, very negative headers, as it were. Nigeria, let me speak to something first and lay a basis. Of course, I work for a company called Olam Agri. Olam Agri is one of the largest agri-business companies in the country, so we are doing our bit in the area of security. Food security is an essential part of national security, which is why, to a large extent, at any point in time when discussions are being had, you always hear about the fact that the National Security Council or the National Security Commission of the country are always present in the room when food security is being discussed. But I'm one of those who now believe that food security, yes, important. Nigeria is food secure. So let's get that straight. Are we food sovereign? No. So food sovereignty is the next step in this entire system or in this entire discussion. So we'll talk about value, we'll talk about value chains, we'll talk about interdependabilities and the likes. Nigeria is food secure, but Nigeria is not food sovereign. Food sovereignty means you have enough food, you can export, you can, So your bumper harvest and what you have is enough to feed, for example, just for emphasis, someone in some people in the sub-region. So what we have is we are self-sufficient to a large extent. We can feed ourselves just at a slightly minimal cost, but are we food sovereign? That is where the conversation should be had. And let's be fair to the federal government of Nigeria. They've come up with all kinds of programs to tackle this, and I think those programs are programs that are work in progress, because in agriculture or in food, you cannot legislate it. It's not you saying, open sesame, close sesame. No, you have to.
Right.
You have to, for example, you want to have cassava, you want to have rice, you have to grow it. You have to make sure that it's grown in the right place, and it takes time. So, are we food secure? Yes. Are we food sovereign? No. Is it, when we will get there, we'll get there, will take time. So it's not by legislation. So we're growing right now in what we call arithmetic progression, but what we need and seek is to grow in geometric progression. And to a large extent, we're self-sufficient, but are we sovereign?
Right. I'm happy that you say that we're food secure and it's a sovereignty part that's we're yet to see. But I'd like you to, in your experience, what have you seen in your experience for you to be so convinced that we're food secure? I know in Davos too, one of the issues that the vice president dealt with was announcing the Back to Farm initiative as part of a broader efforts to address persistent food insecurity. That's, what the vice president did in Davos. So when you say we're food secure, how are you convinced? You can talk about the different regions of the country and you tell us, yeah.
Well, talking about food security, like I always tell people who care to listen, I'm not a politician, so I'm not going to go with sound bites of what politicians say. Vice President Shetima is a politician, is the vice president of Nigeria. There are things he knows that he's speaking to. There are things I know that I speak to. I'm a practitioner. Like I said earlier, and I introduced earlier, I'm one of the largest food producers in the country. So if there's somebody who should know, I know. And I know because of the experience of 12 to 14 years of food agribusiness. So for us, for example, we produce flour, we produce rice, So these things are things that we produce every day. The Nigerian problem, and it's not a Nigerian problem only, it's an African problem, is that a lot of the produce we have, we do not have storage facilities for them. That's where the problem is. So you cannot be food sovereign when half of your produce is wasted. So imagine if that was not wasted, if you had what you call strategic grain reserves that will last 18, 24, 36 months. So those are the systems that we need to help to try and build. So those are things that I'm not going to sit here and speak for the vice president. He's delivered a speech, very stellar. I spoke on the sidelines myself on financing and how Africa must take care of its own finance through what you call blended financing and all that. So we must not go there with like mendicants. We must go there like people who want to be part of the solution. So Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava in the world. Yes, some people will say we're the largest producer of cassava yet to import starch. But you know what? We're still the largest producer of cassava. The man or the woman in the village wants to eat cassava. Does she get cassava? Of course she does. We're the largest producer of cocoyam in the world. We're the largest producer of yam in the world. So those are staples that we're the largest producers of. There's a Yoruba saying, and permit my French. So go and ask the woman in the village. She will tell you that, listen, I don't have a problem with food. The food is there. And what I'm saying is that let's be fair to the government, the current government. Insecurity was something that they met on ground, but farmers are gradually and to a large extent going back to the farm. I don't want us to come with this whole thing of trying to create a narrative of the fact that, everybody has left the farm, the farms are not secure. So you cannot, as the Chimamanda will always say, it's the danger of a single narrative. Let's not get into the mix of a danger of a single narrative.
Right. Apologies.
Is where somebody says, you know what, this is what it is, and everybody just goes to the
apologies, Mr. Adifeko. If you can hear me.
Speak to the practitioners, listen to what the practitioners have to say, and leave speculative talk out of it. Are we food secure? I've answered you, and I've authoritatively told you we are food secure. Are we food sovereign? I've told you we're not food sovereign. Because a lot of what we produce is there to secure us. But you know what happens? That food that we produce, if we don't store it, if we don't process it, if we don't preserve it, the preservation of that food is where the problem is. Yeah. So as much as there's insecurity in the north, largest onions from Nigeria come from where? From Zamfara State. Okay? So we can go on and on about which area produces what, and what the problem is, how does it get to the farm gate?
Quite understand. Sorry to cut you short. Apologies, really. We did say at the beginning of this program that the narrative about farms being abandoned is a wrong one. It's not as if people are not farming, they are, but we probably don't have enough is how we started. But you just spoke about storage, and having storage facilities, preservation facilities to be able to, because that is a major part, transporting produce from the northern parts of the country to the southern parts and all that. And other speakers have talked about government policies. Do you believe that it's only government policies that can help us? Yes, government can create an enabling environment and all that, but what about individuals and other private sector initiatives? Must we always rely on the government or wait for them to create policies to enable us to do more farming and to engage in more agriculture practices, especially now that we have technology that can help us that can make farming or agriculture easier? It's not just about farming and growing plants. There are so many other value chains in agriculture that we can look to that will help us.
Yeah, I mean, you took the word out of my mouth. You were very apt. We don't have a problem of. Let me rephrase what I said. I did not speak about north, south, and all that. I said from farm to fork. That is from farm to farm gate. From the south, from the north, from anywhere, it's all the same. Okay? Proximity to farm gate. If there's infrastructure problem, that's whose problem? That's government's problem. It's not an individual or a private individual that will go and build a road that will bring rice from Nasarawa, for example, or Doma, where my rice farm is, to Lafia. That's not my job. My job is I have the investment of X million dollars there producing. I need a road that is good enough for us to be able to move the rice from there to the farm gate. So when we talk about government, we talk about government is an elixir, government is an enabler, and government must do what it needs to do. But sometimes government wants to be in business. And that's where a lot of countries say, you know what, government, leave us to do the business or enable businesses. You just provide the enabling environment in terms of policy, for example, in terms of infrastructure, for example, in terms of financing, for example. So you have a bank that will provide small loans, soft loans to farmers or to cooperatives. Yes. So, but you have to understand something. Government is the largest spender, largest investor, largest contributor to many things. So government policy, which is why I'm sure you usually listen to the word license to operate. A company has a license to operate, but one government policy can just take that license away based on a policy misalignment or a policy blip, a wrong policy that's gone the wrong way.
All right, Mr. Adifeko, just 1 second.
That's one thing. All right.
Yes. So maybe industrial agriculture is already being taken up. But I see that Mr. Adifeko would like to respond to some of the things that you said. But Prof, just a second. Mr. Adifeko, just a second. Mr. Adifeko, the question that I'd like to ask you in your response to Prof is also about food security. She has mentioned the 4 pillars of food security, talking about availability, accessibility, utilization, and stability. And according to the Food and Agricultural Organization, food security operates at household level, community level, national level, and global level. So that's the reason that question, that issue when you raised it, and you said it a number of times. That's why I wanted to just interrogate it a little further, so that the viewer and listener to you understands exactly what you're talking about.
You took the word out of my mouth when you spoke to the fact that, you know what, it's not the number of people on the farm that matters. It's the yields per hectare and the quantity produced from that hectare. So we're talking about efficiency here and effectiveness, not numbers. We're not talking about farming. We're not talking about farming here. We're talking about agribusiness and agriculture. So technology has gone, 4-fold, 5-fold. And you spoke to it properly. There's industrial agriculture. Let me speak to something that a lot of people don't know as well. There's what you call the food belts of the world. There's the pampas of Argentina. There's the velds of South Africa, and there's the prairies of Canada. So those are agricultural, there are swaths or agricultural belts that produce food for these countries concerned. Canada, particularly, Argentina, and of course South Africa. Then it used to be the other one used to be, I can't remember the last one, but it used to be part of Russia, which is why to a large extent these places or these countries produce food all year round. You talked about the definition, textbook definition. I don't want to believe in what you call ignoratio legis. Yes, ignoratio legis is the fallacy of missing the point sometimes. Missing the point sometimes is that we go to these textbook analogies of what X says or Y says. Okay, at this point in time, the only thing that I can tell you that is missing in that textbook definition is affordability. Affordability is the problem. Availability, it is there. Okay, every other thing, every other matrix, it is there. When you now start talking about how healthy it is and how healthy it's not, it's a different story entirely. We can improve on that. But to say that people are not eating well, people are not, I mean, for goodness sake, the Ministry of Health has not declared a health emergency with respect to people having kwashiorkor or distended tummies or the likes. So what are we speaking to here? That we are going into this alarmist, you see, I don't really like it. I've been to 56 countries in the world. I'm widely traveled. So when I speak authoritatively.
Well,
I like people to speak authoritatively.
I sincerely apologize.